All right, let's just jump right in with a kind of big question. What if that peace we're all chasing? What if it has absolutely nothing to do with being comfortable?
And here's another one. What if happiness isn't really about what happens to you, but everything, and I mean everything, about how you choose to meet it? You know, these aren't new questions, not by a long shot. In fact, they're ancient. So that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to explore this timeless wisdom you find in the letters from a Stoic. And these are the actual personal letters of the Roman philosopher Seneca. Think of it like a practical guide for finding freedom, not out there in the world, but right here inside you.
Okay, but to really get this, we got to understand the man and the world he lived in. Because this advice, it wasn't written from some comfy ivory tower. Nope. It was forged in the fire of a really chaotic and, frankly, dangerous life.
I mean, this guy, Seneca, he was a major statesman. He was the mentor to the infamous Emperor Nero. Yeah, that Nero. And he was one of the wealthiest men in all of Rome. So he saw it all. The absolute heights of power, the crushing pain of being exiled, and the constant threat of political violence. Believe me, he knew what it felt like to live in a really uncertain world.
Now, here's what's so cool about this. All these powerful ideas, they come from personal letters he wrote to a younger friend of his, a guy named Lucilius. They were never meant to be published or anything. They're just raw, honest, and super direct. It's like a mirror, one that reflects all the universal struggles we still face today: fear, grief, ambition, and that search for a life well lived. All right, let's get right to the heart of it. Everything Seneca teaches, everything, it all builds on one simple but unbelievably powerful foundation. Seriously, if you get this one core idea, you basically get Stoicism. And here it is, the big idea. The only thing that's truly 100% under your control is your mind, your judgments, your responses, your will. That's it. That is your kingdom. Everything else is outside the gates. And this breakdown here just illustrates it perfectly. Look, on one side, you've got all the stuff you can't control. Think of these as the storms, your health, your reputation, what's happening in the news, all the things that cause us so much anxiety. Yeah, we can try to influence them, but ultimately, we can't control them. But then, on the other side, that's where your real power is. It's how you judge those events, how you choose to react. And that's the whole game in Stoicism, focusing all your energy right there. But hold on. This doesn't mean you're supposed to become some kind of emotionless robot. Not at all. Seneca is super clear about this. Bad things will happen. Pain is real. It's a physical sensation. But the stories we tell ourselves about that pain, the fear, the panic, the despair that follows, that part, he says, is a choice. That part is optional. Okay, so now that we've got the foundation, let's see how this whole idea builds into a practical toolkit for life. We're going to cover 3 really powerful, totally actionable lessons straight from Seneca's letters. All right, first up, the one thing you can never, ever get back: your time. Seneca looked around and saw people guarding their money and their property like crazy, but then they just give away their time like it was absolutely worthless. And this is one of his most famous lines, and man, it's a real gut punch. He basically argues that life isn't actually too short. It's that we waste so much of it. We just squander it on trivial stuff, on worrying about a future that isn't here yet, or on living for other people's approval. Every single moment you waste, that's a piece of your life you've just given away. Okay, next up, let's talk about wealth and desire. And remember, Seneca was a super rich guy. So this isn't about hating on material things, not at all. It's about rejecting your dependence on them. True poverty, he said, isn't about having too little. It's about needing too much. So how do you actually do that? Well, he prescribed a kind of training, something called voluntary discomfort. It's like this. For a few days, just live simply. Eat basic food, wear old clothes. When you do this, you're not just, saving a few bucks. You're teaching yourself, proving to yourself that you can be perfectly content with less. You're building up your resilience and smashing that fear of losing everything.
And finally, we get to the lesson that, let's be honest, people find the most challenging: facing our own mortality. Seneca actually believed that thinking about death wasn't some morbid, depressing thing to do. Just the opposite. He saw it as the ultimate tool for living a truly good life.
See, when you really, truly accept that your time is limited, something amazing happens. A kind of beautiful clarity just emerges. All those trivial anxieties, the petty little arguments, the fear of what other people think of you, it all just starts to melt away. Remembering that you will die gives your life focus. It gives it urgency. It forces you to ask that one huge question: what really matters?
So, the big question is, why does this 2,000-year-old advice feel so incredibly relevant right now, today? Well, it's simple. Seneca was dealing with the exact same human operating system we're all running on. The only thing that's changed is the distractions.
I mean, just think about it. Seneca's call to reclaim your time, that's a direct hit answer to our endless digital distraction. His advice on mastering desire, that is the perfect antidote to the fear of missing out, FOMO. And his focus on only what you can control, that's basically a cure for burnout and flying off the handle emotionally. Now, this is so important to get right. The goal of Stoicism is not to suppress your emotions and turn into some cold, unfeeling person. That's a huge misconception. The goal is to become unshakable. It's about building an inner fortress of calm and reason so that you can navigate the inevitable storms of life without getting completely capsized by them. And really, this is where it all leads. See, Seneca isn't trying to sell you some simple, easy-to-achieve happiness. Life's just way too complex for that. What he's offering is something so much deeper and so much more durable.
It's inner freedom. That's the prize. The freedom that comes from a mind guided by reason, by courage, and by acceptance. A mind that can stay calm, clear, and steady, even when the world outside is a complete chaotic mess. That, right there, is the ultimate promise.
So let's end right where we started, with a question for you to take away from all this. Knowing that your time is finite and that your attention is literally your most precious resource, what truly, truly matters in the time you have left?